I ruptured the first disc in my back in 2008. This was when I was still a young gorilla, and if you've watched the videos on things that I wish I would do different when I was younger, it totally applies to this. If I would listen to my advice when I was younger, my back would be much healthier and maybe I would have never had my disc injuries. But it's something that I've dealt with for over a decade and have learned to work around and learn to manage. The thing that I can say about the back, and again, I wish I had known this 10 years ago or more, if you have back problems and especially disc problems and it's related to lifting, you have to follow Dr. Stuart McGill's advice, read his book. He's got a book called Back Mechanic, another one called Gift of Injury. Anything that I'm going to teach you about how I've been able to manage my back has come from him. So if you want to get to the nuts and bolts and really dive into the details, I cannot recommend Dr. Stuart McGill's work enough. So my first disc injury happened while I was actually recovering from a partially torn patella tendon. So I was trying to come back from a partially torn patella tendon, and I was doing very high box squats. They were probably half range of motion box squats. And I was doing that because the bottom range of motion didn't help. So back to the lessons that I wish I knew when I was younger, this applies to the ego lifts. I was doing a half range of motion box squat, and I could do way more weight there than I could in a normal squat. Obviously, it was a half squat. And because of that, I let the ego get the best of me. And instead of doing higher reps with lower weight, which would have been a smarter thing to do, I decided to max out and do heavy singles and doubles. And so doing those half box squats, I herniated my L5-S1 and L4-L5 discs. When it happened, there was a large crack in my back. I had to dump the weight. I fell to the floor, felt like I couldn't move. I was quite a bit younger than I am now at the time. Actually, I was very young and didn't have a very good understanding of the back and training like I do now. I honestly thought that I may have broken my back or broken a vertebrae based on how bad it hurt and how it sounded. So I was taken to the emergency room and they did an x-ray, and the x-ray looked fine. And so the doctor said that I probably just strained a muscle in my back. So went, I don't know, it was probably many months thinking, oh, I just had a strained muscle in my back, so it took some time off. And because I didn't know it was a disc, I wasn't as conservative or smart as I should be. So if my back started to feel a little better, I would try deadlifting and I would hurt it worse. I would try squatting and I would hurt it worse. Until finally it got to the point where I got an MRI and had a very clear MRI, rupture and herniation in 2 discs. It took a very, very long time to recover, and at the time when I first learned that it had happened, if I was familiar with Stuart McGill's work, I could have saved months, maybe even years of recovery time. Though I don't give medical advice, one thing that I do believe in that is somewhat controversial is I'm not a big believer in chiropractors, especially the chiropractors that just bring you in, crack you, move you around, adjust you, and see you on your way. Especially if you learn more about the spine through Stuart McGill's work, you'll understand that that really doesn't do anything for you. Any sort of pain relief that you think it might be adding is probably more of a sensation and a temporary Band-Aid fix, and isn't going to do anything to actually address and fix your back problems. So understanding Stuart McGill's work, you need to understand the McGill Big 3 and the lifter's wedge, and there's other videos here in this university that go over that. Overcoming this herniated disc is something that it's going to last for my entire life, but I've gotten much better at managing it. Before I met Stuart McGill, but I understood that I had a disc problem, I would tweak my disc probably 2 to 4 times a year, depending on the severity of the disc bulge and the re-injury there. I would have to take anywhere from 1 to 3 off weeks of training, and I could come back pretty quick after that. And then once I met Stuart McGill and started applying his methods to my training and learning how to protect my back, I was averaging less than 1 disc tweak a year. So the way of working around the disc injuries is understanding how to lift with a proper spine, which again, you can find those videos in this university, is adhering to that, doing the big 3 every day, and learning the proper spine movements and spine conserving movements to live everyday life in. And learning those things, the stuff that you can learn from McGill's stuff and the videos that I've put together in this university, it's really just applying those and living by those things that has extended my career and my longevity to protect my back.